Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Film Reels, our podcast about the professions of cinema. Today, our guest is Laura Horak, Professor of Film Studies at Carleton University and author of the book Girls with Big Boys. Questions to Laura will be made by Matteo Alocci, who is a student of our MA program in Music and Performing Arts.
Let's start with what sparked your interest in researching silent cinema through the lens of gender and identity.
I've always been interested in gender and sexuality and how they came to be the way they are and why they changed and when and how. And so when I was an undergraduate student at Yale University, I found a website that had a list of cross-dressing films and trans films from all over the world in all different time periods. And I was really surprised that there were so many films from before even the 1950s. I thought this was a relatively new thing, but I was wrong. For my spring break, I'd asked Charlie Musser, one of my professors, how do I find these films? Because they weren't available on DVD. He said, you should go to the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. and watch, and they'll probably be there. And so I did. I ordered a bunch of films at Library of Congress, a bunch of silent films that all had cross-dressing in them, and I watched them for a week. And my mind was just totally blown that they looked so modern. There was so much queerness, so much transness, so many kind of in-jokes and winks. I just didn't expect to see that whole world in the silent era. And so since then, I've been fascinated.
What challenges do scholars face when researching silent films that explores these themes?
Yeah, I mean, one is the challenge that every scholar of silent film faces, which is that so many films are lost. And so it's so frustrating to read these amazing descriptions in the trade press and the reviews, and then to know that no one knows where that film is, and like it's probably gone forever. The other thing that's hard is that, especially when I was first starting out looking for films with cross-dressing or lesbianism in them, you couldn't just sort of look up cross-dressing or just look up lesbian and sort of see a list of films. You had to talk to archivists and ask them and see what they knew. You had to go through reading all of the reviews, which when I started were just on microfilm, and there was a few collected in books like Variety and New York Times, but it's been incredible in the years since then. So many newspapers and the trade press have been digitized, so it actually has become a lot easier to find just thousands of films. They might not survive, but you can at least get a sense of what a richness and variety there was.
How do festivals like Le Giornate del Cinema Muto help bringing visibility to these less known aspects of silent cinema?
I think they're so important because still the standard film history or the standard art history is that, the most important silent characters were like men like Charlie Chaplin or Cecil B. DeMille, and it's not really part of most film histories that there was an incredible number of, well, first off, women making films, but also that there was a lot of queer people making films, that there was tons of jokes around cross-dressing and gayness and lesbians. There was tons of adaptations of books and plays that addressed those questions, and that the newspapers would talk about that, would talk about sometimes using coded language, all of these things that we thought were kind of off limits for the public in the early 20th century. And so having films like, film series like Cinema's First Nasty Women here, and before that I did a program of cross-dressing films that inspired by my dissertation that is now my book, Girls Will Be Boys. It really makes it possible for us to tell different histories and for us to program differently for the public, to teach students differently. So it's been really wonderful to have Giornate help get the word out, because a lot of the films I watched, like that first time at Library of Congress, they had been sitting there for years, like they were there, but no one was seeing them because they don't have necessarily big stars or something, and so people don't necessarily know the significance until they're programmed with that context.
In your experience, which behind-the-scenes roles like archivists, curators, programmers are crucial for preserving and interpreting queer history in silent films?
Yeah, all of them, definitely. Yeah. I mean, we, scholars get a lot of the credit because we might write a book or something. But if they are not archivists there, or collectors too, outside of the archive, people who are preserving the films, spending the money, putting them in a safe place, making it possible for them to be screened for researchers or here, then there would be nothing for us to be writing about. And also, like I said, a lot of the things I found were from directly talking to archivists. So from their encyclopedic knowledge, telling me about the things that I needed to be seeing. And then also curators too. Many of the films that I write about are films that I saw here at Pordenone as part of other programs that I would never have known about if someone else hadn't gone, either an archivist or a scholar, gone to the archive and thought they were worth programming. So I think it's all like a really important ecosystem.
Collective.
Yeah, exactly. It has to be a collective effort.
Why is it important for contemporary audiences and new generations to engage with silent films through the lens of gender and queer history?
Yeah, I think it's really important because, like me, when I was an undergraduate student, I thought that everything I knew about like the queer and trans world was new and recent and had only been sort of invented and figured out recently. But actually, there's a long, long history. And the history is not just hidden and silent and obscure like we sometimes think, but that it's been queer and trans people and representations have been really active and an important part of I work on American popular culture, but also, Europe and elsewhere. And so it's important for people to know both that they have a history and that they've been around, but also that things are changing all the time. How gender works is changing all the time, how sexuality works. And so if there's things about our present moment that we don't like we can change them. We can change fundamental things about society, like what gender is and how it works. So I think the silent era is really important for the general public to be able to connect both with things that resonate with them, that connect them to history, but also to show them how different things can be in just 100 years.
Thank you, Laura, for joining us today and for sharing with us your ideas about silent films. And I want to thank also Matteo for making his questions that shed light on Laura's research path, and it was really inspiring. Thank you so much, and thanks to you for watching our podcast.